How do you survive a toxic job? Part three. So please tune into the other parts that I have talking about the stages of grief in relation to a toxic job. So, yes, you can survive a toxic job. It's a healing process. And I know because I've been there and I've supported a lot of other Black women in their process as well, their healing journey. So I decided to come on today to give very bite sized nuggets of my own healing journey talking about why am I even doing this work? Black women have reached out to me to say thank you for having these conversations. I'm not the first one to do this. Dr. Carrie Yazid has had conversations about this. Minda Harts has had conversation about this. If you've not gotten their books, please do so. I want to support other Black women. So again, I'm not the only one. But I am very determined to continue to have these conversations. And I want to also share my own healing journey because I want you to know if you are in a toxic job that healing is possible. And I want you to see that not only from me, but from the guests that I've had. And I wanted to share a little bit more about my own story because this really influences why I'm even doing this work. Okay. And as Anne Marie Archer talked about, going through a toxic job and healing from that, it's an ongoing healing process because it's a form of trauma. Okay. So I've gone over the other two stages of grief in relation to a toxic job. Again, many times we might feel confused about why we are experiencing any, level of grief in relation to a toxic job. But it makes sense that you are because as you come into a job, many times you have dreams, you have goals about what you want to accomplish while you're at that job. And then the grief kind of sits in there, it kind of settles in when you come to the realization that those dreams and goals are not going to be met, right? Or there might be situations in which people in the workplace have betrayed you in some ways, or you might even miss your coworkers. So there's a lot of different reasons for the grief. So I'm going to be going over the third stage of grief, which is bargaining. Okay. And so again, I'm sharing my story because I think a lot of times when we go through these things, we are so wrapped up in fighting, right? And we're so wrapped up in feeling alone that this is the only person, you're the only person this happened to. You are not, okay? And I wanted to be very open and transparent about my own experience, even though I'm a very private person. I know I might be surprised, because I do all these videos, but I'm a very private person in terms of my own experiences. But I wanted to share these things with you just to show that I connect, I understand. I understand what it's like, okay? And I'm on the other side. I'm healing, right? I'm on the other side, but I'm still healing, okay? So when I talk about bargaining, right? So again, how do we heal from toxic work environments? Is that we pause and we heal, okay? That's how we survive. Is that we heal. But I also want to say that it's very hard to heal in the same environment that's harming you, okay? So I encourage Black women, if you are in a toxic work environment, to start thinking about your exit plan and start making strategies to leave. Because I find it very difficult to heal in those same environments. And we know for Black women that we're now dying at earlier ages because of toxic experiences, right? Racism, sexism, toxic jobs, right? So bargaining. So for me, bargaining was very interesting. So at my job, I had been doing a lot of different work. I'd done a lot of work that other people had not done before in terms of developing or co-developing trainings that were very well received. And it came like out of nowhere that I was informed that I was being demoted. And again, as I talked about in the previous video, when George Floyd was murdered, I was pulled in to do a lot of this anti-racism work, and I was doing a lot of this work. And the next thing I know, I was so-called demoted. Okay. Now, there's a whole different, I've talked about this issue before about being demoted, right? Because I knew it wasn't a demotion. I knew it was another sign for me that I needed to get out, right? That this is not the place for me. But let me go back to when I was demoted. So when I was demoted, I was placed back to my entry level position. So when I first started the job, even though I had trained other people, even though I had been put in leadership positions, even though all these things, the people that I had trained now would be over me, right? Because I was put back in an entry level position. And I was told, oh, because your position, we're restructuring and your position is no longer a full time position. Okay. So even when all that stuff was happening, Okay. I still tried to bargain with them. Okay, well, I understand I have to do this type of job that I don't want to do that I've outgrown. Can I still do the trainings that I developed or I co-developed, right? And it was told to me, well, maybe a little bit, but eventually, no, you won't even be able to do that, right? So the one grain, right? One of the one grains in terms of what even kept me at that job, in terms of something that I enjoyed doing, I was told I could no longer do that more than likely. That would be phased out. The work that I was doing with Black students, I was told that would be phased out. So there was nothing really keeping me there, okay? And even though I was put back in that position of doing something I had outgrown years ago, right? I still tried to make it work. And so my ask was, okay, can I work at one of the high schools? If you're in Los Angeles, if you know about the demographics, not that many schools within Los Angeles are predominantly Black. And so I asked if I could be at one of those schools in terms of providing mental health services. And I was told no. Okay. So it turned out that there were no Black people providing mental health services for that school that was predominantly Black. And that was an example of which I was trying to bargain, right? Trying to make sure that things were going to be like, how can I? And it just didn't work. Okay. And so that was part of my stage of grief was when I realized even in this bargaining attempt, it still wasn't working. It wasn't working. Okay. And, I tried in many other ways to, as my friend said, I was trying to prove my worth, right? So I was trying to bargain with those in supervisory positions about doing, certain works, continuing the trainings that I developed or co-developed, and trying to bargain with them, trying to show them, the positive evaluations, trying to show them testimonials that staff had written about the trainings, but it went nowhere. It went nowhere. And so my friends had to, and that's the importance of having really good friends and sister circles, because people around you will see, wait a minute, what are you doing? Why are you trying to convince people? Why are you bargaining with them? And sometimes you need good people around you to kind of pull you aside and say, stop. Okay. And so I'm so thankful to my friends who did that to me, right? And for me, so that I stopped. I stopped bargaining. Okay. So bargaining is the third stage of grief. And that's something that, again, we're talking about a healing process. Healing does not happen just immediately. So if you decide to leave a job, it's not like, oh, I'm healed, right? So again, we have to go through that healing process so that we can deal with these issues and we don't take all that crap over when we go somewhere else that really affirms us. Okay. So if you need support with that, I do have a coaching program for Black Women Healing from Toxic Jobs coaching program. If you would like more information about that, or you would like to schedule a free consultation call, a 15-minute, you can click the link that I'll put in the description section. So again, I am talking about the stages of grief. I'm now at stage 3. And I wanted to mention also that when we think about the stages of grief, grief is not just like a linear thing, right? You can go back and forth through the different stages. And I found myself doing that as well. Okay. And I just want to share that with you. So I'm going to sign off again. As you saw in the other videos, I am signing off just for me to engage in some self or soul care for myself, because talking about this is traumatic for me too. But the more I talk about it, the easier it is to talk about. And I do want to talk about it because, again, I don't want Black women to feel alone, right? And I want you to know that you can heal, you can thrive, okay? So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so now. And click the notification bell so you will receive notification when I go live or upload a video. And subscribe because I need encouragement to keep doing this work, right? I've had Black women reach out to me and say thank you, but I'm trying to get more Black women to reach out and tune in so we can have more content. And if there's more content that you would like for me to cover, you can write a description section to any of these videos, because I read and respond to all of my comments. So I will be back shortly after I take some moments to heal, and I'll come back with the last 2 stages of grief. So take care.